school, or once like after like the friendship?
Yeah, the funny thing is, me and Junes originally met at IC Visions, which was like pre-remix. Our boy Gavin was actually close to here, like deep West End, and they had a stew, and I was deep East them times, and so Saga mans and then a bunch of us East Side mans like linked there, and them times it was like pops and like all like rich kid mans from like, but that was really the first like link up when we were still teenagers. And then from there it just progressed. So that was really the first time I feel like me and Junes really got to like sit down and go in on kind of just a vibe. And also we always were kind of drawn to similar sounds as far as music, timeless music with a lot of soul and substance to it. Something that you could play, you can make it now, but you could still 10 years from now it still bumps. 5 years, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't lose that authenticity or the genuine overall vibe of the music itself. So that was really a dope process, just to kind of cultivate each other and incubate those ideas in a safe space, in a space where you feel supported, where you kind of thrive off each other, and the whole energy transference that happens. So yeah, and then with Kills, he was always kind of like going off on his MP, and I'd always be rapping or singing, and we had performed and stuff before, but it was like, let's just actually just like get on a vibe. And it's crazy because there's so many tracks that we still have that we didn't necessarily put on the tape, because the tape, you kind of want to have a curated body of songs that kind of work with each other. So there was still songs that were dope that just didn't necessarily suit that vibe, that we still have, that we'll probably just put out as Lucy's or as like a side project. But I think that's the joy of doing it with people that are in line with kind of your vision and your standard of quality of work as well. It's like it doesn't feel like work at all. It's just like it's fun. Like the whole time me and Kills did those joints, Full Time Lover and Reach, it was like, and those I feel like were definitely classics off In the Paint. And we were both going through similar things at the time, and it was kind of just like, you know what I mean, vibing on a beat, and it was like, but we're both going through it, so those ones where you're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying. And same with Chi-Town and June's, like we're both in our feelings and like going through it. So it's like, it's like speaking to each other. I know what you mean.
Just like kind of like that whole like classic Jay-Z and like Timbaland like studio session, where like Timbaland, he was like bobbing to like the style with Jay, like bobbing his head either way too. Like it kind of had like that same feeling as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like you don't even need to say it. It's like, yup, okay, bet.
Oh. I think like what set In the Paint different from other projects that I've listened to was like the cover art, in a way too. And like I had to like research some parts of the cover art, just to make sure like everything was right in a way. So I think it had the 1999 game of like the Raptors versus like the Timberwolves, the HMV import stamp that you would get from like HMV for like old CDs, and then I think with the Above the Rim inspired like logo too. Tell me more about the inspiration idea and the idea beyond the cover art in a way.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to your attention to detail on the cover. Bronze, who's the homie, did the artwork. Bronze is super fire, BBRC, Notes to Self. So we flipped, actually, I believe it's the 1996 All-Star game, from kind of a flip on the Slam mag. But yeah, basically, the Above the Rim flip, of course, because that movie I feel like impacted a lot of us growing up. Just from the soundtrack to the whole like combining ball with, you know what I mean, and everything. There's so much in that movie that really impacted a lot of us. So the flip. I grew up playing basketball my whole life, so In the Paint kind of came from that idea of going hard, just leaving it all out on the floor, leave your inhibitions behind type thing. Really just living in the moment. And Bronze and we kind of sat down and chopped it up about the idea. We had talked a lot about the nostalgic ball, because he's a ball head too, so all that NBA Jam, all the stuff that we kind of grew up with. And so we went back and forth, and yeah, like the concept was super dope, and the tape, the HMV, because if y'all remember that, some of us do, some of us don't, but that was the HMV import. Was like, you got those ones, you felt nice. So yeah, and then Sotomayor on the back of the tape, of course, because he, you know, Mighty Mouse was someone when we first got our team that it was like, dang, you know, for a long time, you know, growing up, we never had a team. So when we finally did, it was like epic to finally say that we had our own team. But yeah, and even just the whole culture of, I feel like ball and music, especially hip hop and like R&B, always just for me went hand in hand. It was kind of like, you know, how we grew up, and the influences, and the kind of, even the OGs that we kind of looked up to growing up. It was like always that combination, you know, and obviously the clothes, like everything, you know, that we always were drawn to, that the throwback jerseys, the, you know, so yeah, it was like, it was really dope to see it come to life in that way, and that's kind of what led to calling it In the Paint, because I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm going hard in the paint, and it's just
it's your time and all that.
Yeah,
True.
You know,
yeah, I know what you mean. And I think like what makes you different from all like the other artists in Toronto is just, I think, just kind of your direction into looking into like new sounds and new styles, and like influencing like various concepts of love and various concepts of like nonchalance and just, you know, excitement to like other songs too and other projects. Like I've never seen like a Toronto-based artist like do mainly an NBA inspired like album cover and work with like two unique producers like in a way too, and like even like shoot like a music video like in a different like city other than like Toronto or like Niagara Falls or Dubai. But it's interesting.
Yeah, the Chi-Town video was actually, it was cool that I shot some of it in Chi-Town with my homies from the Remix project. They have an office there, so we shot some of it there, and then came back here, had the drone, so we were like, yeah, let's mess with the drone, and that was cool. And shout out Chris Ack, who's also like a brother of mine from time, and he pretty much does all my video stuff with me. So yeah, that was really fun. And then just messing with some of the CGI stuff that we just started to kind of scratch the surface with it, and now we're kind of in the bag with it. But yeah, it was the beginning of that, and just it's kind of like with each video, you know, it's you bring something new to the table, you learn a new skill, you know, technology is changing. So it was really interesting with Chi-Town to bring those things together and shoot on a bunch of different locations. You know, it was really dope putting it all together in the end.
True. And for Chi-Town, I guess like it's like an ode to the city like in the song, or would it be like a different like aspect like for the song? And also in Chicago, did you also like do some sightseeing there while you worked on the music video?
Yeah, I mean, I love Chicago, man. It's like, you know, always holds a special place in my heart. So yeah, I've been there numerous times, and every time, definitely I always try and take in, you know, they have really dope jazz, blues clubs. It's a foodie city, so I'm Italian, so I'm always there for the foodie vibes. It's a gorgeous city. The way the canals, especially in the summer, the canals and the waterways just go through the city. So sometimes I would just take the boat. There's like a boat that just goes through, and you just get on a vibe and just like write. And other creative friends of mine that live there who make music, who, you know, do film. It's always dope to collaborate. I definitely have some songs in the works with some Chicago producers and artists as well. So yeah, that time in particular, yeah, we went, I believe it was summer, so we were like, we just went out there with the camera and like did our thing, took the whole day, just walked around, went to a bunch of different spots. And so yeah, that was really interesting too, like to see it from that type of view, where it's like you're a tourist because you don't live there, but the architecture as well is like just stunning in general, because it has so much history in Chicago. The old buildings, like it's compared to Toronto, which is, you know, a newer city in that sense, it's just the scale of things is so different. You know, it's almost like New York in the sense of like you just feel overwhelmed by these massive buildings, and so it was a combination of an ode to Chicago itself, because I like Toronto, it's so diverse, and you know, there's a lot of Italians in Chicago as well, so there's a long history of that there too. Little Italy and all that, but also just, you know, different love interests I've had in Chi-Town. And so, you know, I speak on that in the track too. Is like it ain't all roses, but you know, you go through it. I don't regret any of those experiences. It was just, you know, you're young, sometimes you go through trials and tribulations of the heart, and it's like you just got to get it off your chest sometimes to move past and heal.
Yeah,
you know.
what you mean. And I guess like with the food in Chicago too, like you've had like, I guess, Harold's and Uncle Remus, or what else did you had?
There's a couple spots, I don't remember the exact names, but there's a few spots on like, there's a street basically where Little Italy is, kind of like downtown, where it's like, obviously, you know, for me, my favorite there is like, obviously the pasta and stuff like that, but they're also like southern cooking there is fire. Like there's a couple of blues and jazz clubs. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but it's like there's a strip of like a bunch of them, and they all have like crazy ribs and mac and cheese and like all that soul food that you're just like, damn, that's not really popping like that here. Like I know there's spots here, but you really have to like go out of your way to find that here. Whereas there, it's like the one street is really just music vibes. The whole, it's like amazing live musicians where like every spot is popping, you know. I mean, I don't know with COVID now, but for a while it's like it had that a little bit of a Bourbon Street vibe, you know, which was really dope.
Yeah, true. I never been to Chicago, but like I could definitely recommend, if you do go back to like going to Harold's or Uncle Remus or Michael Jordan Steakhouse or like Giordano's, like those four are like pretty much essential if you want to try the essential like Chicago food, like chicken with mild sauce, deep dish pizza, and even like steak from like Michael Jordan's steakhouse too. Like
yeah. I was lucky to have friends being like, yo, this is a spot, let's like, so I was always like in good company as far as they knew the spots to kind of say, yeah, let's go, versus me just like wandering around, which I do too, but sometimes it's hit and miss with that. And just like, you know, but yeah, for sure.
So you've worked with HeyBombay on a couple of tracks, including Call Me Daddy and Hold You Down. Tell me more about those tracks in general, like even with working with HeyBombay, and if possible, are you working on a new project soon, like with him or not?
Yeah, so Call Me Daddy was mad fun. That was like just a Lucy we did in the spring, and Swanky Octavio Santos is someone who I've worked a lot with. Put his horns on that, his trumpet, so, and he did a bunch of joints on In the Paint as well, the trumpet work. So yeah, Call Me Daddy, that was just a vibe. Like Bombay had sent it to me, I think I was up north, and I was just like, yeah, you know what? I was like, let's just go in. And I hit Swanky, I was like, B, you gotta put your sauce on this. And you know, Swanky's always down, so he's like, yeah, I got you. And then yeah, that was, and then from there it kind of went into Hold You Down, which, you know, Swanky again put his sauce on it, and Kills mixed that joint, and it was just kind of like, Hold You Down was just more of kind of like a vulnerable space in the sense of, you know, okay, like sometimes we all, you know, have moments where you're like, you're talking to somebody and you're like, could I be with this person, you know, could I build with this person? And it's kind of like thinking out loud, like you want to hold them down, but you're kind of processing in your mind like what that would look like, but you don't necessarily want to stop talking to them either. So it's like sometimes you gotta, you know what I mean, you gotta poop or get off the pot, so to say, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that was kind of like, it was a super chill vibe, but it was just a bop. It was kind of like, I feel like a lot of us were in a similar mind space too, in the sense of when I was writing it, you know, it's like as you always find love in different ways, and I feel like with every person it's different. So when you have that relationship and you're trying to navigate that. It's never easy. It's always, you know, it's not black and white. It's always like a gray area. Just more so just to trust your intuition and follow your heart, you know, where it takes you. And so yeah, from there it was Go-Go was kind of another collaboration with Bombay and Swanky that was, you know, kind of like, okay, now we got that in the bag, like, all right, like we're feeling good with the crew, you know. Also that joint is more about stop and smell the roses, you know. It's like we work so hard, and it's like sometimes you want to take those moments to celebrate and be like, yeah, you know what, like, and a song that reflects that. Sometimes you do just want to dance and turn up and have a good time, you know. So it's nice to have that balance of, you know, we can go to a serious track, or, you know, a more vulnerable emotional track, to a, you know, turn up, have fun track, feel good. And I feel like that speaks a lot to the album. So MON-STAR is coming out 2021, and that is going to be 10 tracks. So Hold You Down will be on that Go-Go, and we have a few more singles we're rolling out in the next few months. So yeah, and you know, Bombay produced those joints, Swanky's on a bunch of them. I got Anthony Rinaldi, who's an amazing saxophone player, on a couple of those joints. And then Kills on the mix, Mariana on the master. So yeah, it was just like a fam jam, really. Like, it was really dope to have everyone you know, involved that have been rocking from the beginning, and you know, to see the evolution in all of us, like, you know, from Bombay with just experimenting with different sounds, and even me just with lyrics and extending, you know, my capacity as a writer, as a storyteller. It's been really dope to see the growth in all of us, and I feel like MON-STAR is, you know, a time capsule of that. It's like, you know, the evolution of all of us. But again, it was really having fun. Like with this project, most of the time we were in the studio together, just like freestyling. Most of the tracks came from a freestyle, and then I either penned them later, or we just like went with what we had. And same with Bombay, like we just mess around with songs. We'd all start messing around with little sounds in the studio. You know, sometimes Swanky was there, or we'd send him the track after, kind of thing. But it was always like a super, just real, like organic process that wasn't overthought. It was just like being present, literally, like emoting as it was happening. And I feel like for me as a writer, you know, when you're, you know, starting out, it's like, okay, you sit down, you pen something, or you're just freestyling, whatever. But to me, I feel like a lot of the artists that I looked up to as well growing up, and just for me,